inevitable. And I am Iron Man.
Welcome to Mr. Screen. Anyone who has been following the Avengers since the beginning is already accustomed to many plot twists, but now it's time for Doomsday, and the only one capable of doing it is Doom. Actually better in this new version, Tony Stark Doom or Dr. Doom Stark. You choose the name. Without further ado, let's get straight to the point. The rebirth of shadows. Darkness stretched over the New York skyline. The city, still recovering from the battle with Thanos, seemed calm, but something sinister was beginning to move in the shadows. After Tony Stark's sacrifice, the universe enjoyed an uncertain peace. The billionaire genius, who had given his life to defeat the Mad Titan and restore order, was now a legend, an icon for all humanity. However, in a hidden dimension of reality, forces that no hero could foresee were working to bring Stark back. But not as the hero everyone knew. Victor Von Doom, the tyrannical ruler of Latveria and master of the arcane arts, watched the flow of time and reality closely. He knew that Stark's sacrifice had left a gap in the cosmos, an imbalance he could exploit. Doom didn't just want power, he wanted absolute supremacy, and for that he needed more than his own genius. He needed Tony Stark's mind and body. With an arcane ritual and the manipulation of technological forces that only Doom could understand, he achieved the impossible. Tony Stark was brought back to life, but he was not the same man who had once saved the universe. He was possessed by something far more evil. Doom had transferred his very essence into Stark, merging with him. Now they were one. Doom Stark had been born, a fusion of two of the most intelligent and dangerous men on the planet, but with one purpose: destruction. The return of the Avengers. Meanwhile, the new Avengers, led by Sam Wilson, the new Captain America, continued to protect the world after Thanos' fall. The team, made up of heroes such as Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, faced new global threats. But nothing could prepare them for what was to come. On a seemingly ordinary morning, an emergency signal began to sound in Avengers Tower. Sam Wilson was the first to respond, verifying the alert. "Captain, you're going to want to see this," Bucky said, watching the monitor screens. What they saw was something they didn't want to believe. Tony Stark had been spotted in Latveria, the country ruled by Doom, but something was terribly wrong. His movements were cold, calculated, and his eyes, they weren't the eyes of the hero they knew. "This can't be real." "Tony's dead," Sam said, trying to rationalize what he saw. Wanda, with her mystical powers, sensed something disturbing in Stark's presence. "It's not just Tony. Something's wrong. I scent darkness." The Avengers immediately prepared to investigate. If there was any chance that Tony Stark was alive, they needed to find out what was happening. But none of them were prepared for the true terror that awaited them. Doom Stark reveals himself. When the Avengers arrived in Latveria, the silence was eerie. The streets were deserted, and Doom's fortress was shrouded in an aura of mystery and power. As they entered the castle, they were greeted by a familiar yet completely unfamiliar figure. "Tony," Sam Wilson called out hopefully. But the answer that came was cold and devoid of any humanity. Tony Stark is no more. Only Doom Stark remains. He appeared before them, a mix of his iconic Iron Man armor and Doom's arcane elements. A dark glow radiated from his eyes, and his presence was overwhelming. Doom had achieved what he had always wanted: the limitless power of Stark's mind and his own magic, combined into a force that not even the Avengers could match. "You were fools to think you could rule this world without me. Now you will see the true apocalypse," Doom Stark declared, his voice ringing with an authority that made even the most powerful Avengers hesitate. Before they could react, Doom Stark struck. In one swift, devastating move, he unleashed a blast of energy that struck straight at Sam and Bucky, knocking them back with brutal force. Carol Danvers attempted to retaliate with all her cosmic might, but Doom Stark blocked her attack with ease, channeling his own energy and knocking it away. The battle was short and brutal. Despite all their efforts, the Avengers were defeated one by one. Sam fell to his knees, trying to get up, but before he could react, Doom Stark lifted him by the neck. "You are not worthy to carry this shield," he said, throwing Sam to the ground with contempt. With the Avengers defeated, Doom Stark rose as the new global threat. He had only shown a fraction of his power, and now nothing seemed capable of stopping him. The beginning of Doomsday. Doom Stark began his campaign for world domination. Using the vast network of technology Stark had created, combined with Doom's magic, he began to transform the planet in his image. Each city fell under his rule, one by one. Doom Stark used drones and weapons of mass destruction to control the population, while his mystical powers protected him from any resistance. Meanwhile, Sam Wilson, Bucky, and the other surviving Avengers tried to regroup. They knew they were facing an enemy unlike any before. Tony Stark had been the heart of the team, the man with the solutions, and now he was Doom's most lethal weapon. Sam, still feeling the weight of his shield, wondered if he was ready for this fight. How can we defeat the man who has always had the answer to everything? He wondered aloud. Wanda, though wounded, offered a grim answer. We have to destroy him. There is no other way. Tony is gone. All that's left is Doom. Reluctantly, Sam knew she was right. If there was any chance of saving the world, they would have to end Doom Stark, no matter the cost. The resistance and the revelation as Doom Stark prepared to deliver the final blow. The Avengers discovered a crucial clue. Using Tony's old files, they discovered that there was a backup program built into Stark's armor, a safeguard Tony had created in case his technology became corrupted. This could be the key to defeating Doom. Sam, Wanda, Bucky, and the others hatched a desperate plan. They knew they didn't have the power to face Doom Stark directly, but if they could activate the safeguard, they could disable his systems and weaken Doom enough to destroy him. The final battle was about to begin. They knew this might be their last mission, but they were prepared to risk everything. The desperate plan, the Avengers knew they didn't have much time. Doom Stark was expanding his control over the world at an alarming rate. Entire cities were falling under his rule, and the already weakened resistance was crumbling. Sam Wilson, Captain America's shield in hand, gathered the team together to discuss their plan. "We have to find the hidden base where Tony kept his latest secret project," Sam said, taking a deep breath. "If we can activate the safeguard, we might have a chance to take Doom Stark down from the inside. If Stark designed this, then it's flawed, even with Doom in control," Bucky replied, agreeing with the strategy. "But the question is, where can we find it?" Wanda Maximoff closed her eyes, feeling Tony's residual energy. Using her mystical powers, she tried to connect to the old Stark, to the memory of him that still resided in the frequencies of the technology he had created. "I can sense something in the old Avengers Tower," she murmured. "There's an energy there hidden. If we can get there, maybe we'll find what we need." The group agreed, and despite their wounds from the last battle, they set off for New York, where the Avengers Tower, now in ruins, hid what could be humanity's last hope. Doom's trap. What the Avengers didn't know was that Doom Stark was one step ahead. As they made their way to Avengers Tower, Doom Stark watched over them through his advanced surveillance networks. He had anticipated that they would try Stark's latest trick, and instead of blocking their access, he lured them right into his trap. Inside the tower, the surroundings seemed desolate, but familiar. Sam led the way, followed closely by Bucky and Wanda. The once vibrant hallways were now dusty and empty, but the tension was palpable. "Something doesn't feel right," Sam said, stopping in his tracks. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the building. "Do you really think you can stop me? Do you think you can use Tony Stark's creations against me?" The voice of Doom Stark, a fusion of Doom and Tony, rang out cold and cruel. "I am more than just Stark or Doom. I am something far beyond your understanding." Before they could react, the walls around them lit up with holograms and technological traps. Invisible drones appeared from the ceiling, firing energy beams. Sam raised his shield, blocking the attacks, while Wanda conjured a magical barrier to protect the group. "The trap has been sprung," Bucky shouted, running for cover. Wanda used her powers to destroy some of the drones, but there were too many. They were surrounded and with no way out. Doom Stark appeared on the screens around him, watching them with a superior gaze. "You were fools to think you could fool me," he sneered, as the Avengers were pushed deeper and deeper into the tower. "But since you've come this far, let's see how far you can get." The safeguard revealed. Amidst the chaos of the battle inside the tower, Sam managed to reach the control center. It was there that Tony had stored his last secret. Bucky and Wanda were struggling to keep the drones at bay, but Doom Stark was increasing the intensity of the attacks. It seemed impossible to get out of this situation alive. Sam, sweat dripping down his face, began to fiddle with the consoles. "Come on, Stark. Let this work," he muttered as he tried to access the system. Suddenly, a soft light shone on the screen. Tony Stark's image appeared for a brief moment, like a pre-recorded hologram. It was a final message from Stark. "If you're seeing this, then things have gone terribly wrong," Tony's hologram said. "Doom has taken control, but I saw this coming. There's a flaw in the armor he's wearing, one that can only be activated from within. If you can disable the arcane energy source Doom used to merge with me, you might have a chance to free me, or at least finish him off." Sam breathed a sigh of relief, but reality soon set in again. They still needed to find the energy core that powered Doom Stark. And to do that, they would have to face the enemy head-on. "We have a chance," Sam said, looking at the others. "But we have to act now." The final battle. With Tony's information, the Avengers set out to confront Doom Stark in his fortress. It was their last stand: defeat Doom or watch the world be transformed into a hell ruled by their new supremacy. When they arrived at the fortress, Doom Stark was already waiting for them, atop an imposing platform, with an army of drones surrounding him. "Do you really think you can stop me with such a pathetic trick?" Doom Stark said, his voice thick with arrogance. The battle began, and it soon became clear that Doom Stark was on another level. Each of the Avengers gave their best, but none could penetrate his defense. Sam tried to use his shield to destabilize Doom, while Wanda attacked with magic, but Doom blocked every blow with a wave of his hand. "You are nothing without Stark," he declared, launching a wave of energy that threw everyone back. But at the last second, Bucky managed to activate the device Sam had found. A pulse of energy spread through the fortress, and for a brief moment, Doom Stark found himself weakened. The arcane runes he had used to merge with Tony began to waver. "No!" Sam shouted, rushing toward Doom. With a precise strike, he struck the energy core in Doom Stark's chest, and for an instant, the fusion between Doom and Stark began to crumble. Doom's essence fought to maintain control, but Tony Stark, even in the depths of his own mind, resisted. Doom Stark fell to his knees, screaming in fury, "You cannot defeat me." But with a final effort, Wanda channeled her magic to destroy the arcane connections that powered Doom. The fusion between Doom and Tony finally broke, and Doom was separated from Stark, his body destroyed by the energy released. Tony, now freed, collapsed to the ground, exhausted and powerless. He looked up at the Avengers, his former allies. "I'm sorry," he muttered, before losing consciousness. The unknown of the multiverse. With Doom defeated and Tony Stark rescued, the world began to recover. The Avengers, led by Sam Wilson, finally managed to avoid the global catastrophe that Doom Stark had planned. But Tony, the moment he regains consciousness, hears a voice again in his mind. "We are one. We are Doom." Stark's legacy. Tony Stark's death after the final battle against Thanos was a devastating blow to the world. The hero, who had sacrificed everything to save humanity, was celebrated as a martyr, and his legacy was immortalized in monuments, museums, and in the collective memory of the Avengers. But in a hidden dimension, far from the eyes of the living, something dark was moving. In an alternate timeline, Tony Stark was resurrected by unknown forces. This version of Tony did not wake up in the same universe he left behind, but in a place where power and control were the only law. Amidst the chaos, Stark was confronted by an ancient and malevolent presence who offered him power beyond anything he had ever known. Disillusioned and lost after his resurrection, Tony embraced the power, merging his technological genius with the dark magic that this entity offered. He became Dr. Doom, a sovereign who sought not only control, but total domination over all realities. The return of Doom. Months after the events involving the multiverse and the confrontation with Doctor Strange, Peter Parker, Spider-Man tried to adjust to the new reality. The world had changed, and after the battle against the alternate versions of himself and his villains, Peter was more vigilant than ever. While patrolling the streets of New York, Peter began to notice strange anomalies, areas where time seemed distorted, where technology worked in inexplicable ways, and most alarmingly, where people and objects disappeared without a trace. These anomalies were just the prelude of what was to come. One night, while Peter was investigating one of these phenomena in an abandoned warehouse, he was confronted by a figure that seemed familiar, but at the same time, completely unfamiliar. The figure was wrapped in black armor with silver details and a cape that moved as if it had a life of its own. "Who are you?" Peter asked, already in combat stance. The figure laughed, a cold metallic sound that echoed through the warehouse. "You still don't recognize me, Parker. I thought your spider sense was sharper." Peter stood still, his heart beating fast. He knew that voice, but that was impossible. "Tony," Peter stammered, unable to believe what he was seeing. "It can't be. I'm not the man you knew anymore," the figure replied, removing the mask that hid his face. It was Tony Stark, but with a look Peter had never seen before, a look of absolute power mixed with coldness. "I'm Dr. Doom now." Clash of Masters. Peter froze, his mind trying to process what was before him. How could Tony Stark, the man who had been his mentor and one of the world's greatest heroes, have become the villain who now stood before him? "This is a trick, isn't it?" Peter said, taking a step back. "What happened to you, Tony? How is this possible?" Doom smiled, a smile that held no trace of warmth. "I came back from a place of no hope, Parker. A place where I was forced to reevaluate everything. Magic and technology merged within me in a way you cannot understand. I was resurrected, and with it came a new understanding and a new purpose." Peter shook his head, refusing to believe it. "The Tony I knew would never become this. You taught me to be better, to fight for what is right, to protect those who cannot protect themselves. I may have been naive before, but not anymore," Doom replied, his voice low and dangerous. "The world needs a strong leader, someone who can ensure order at any cost. That was Stark's mistake. He believed morality was a limit, but now I see that it is a weakness." "This is madness, Tony," Peter shouted, his spider senses alerting him to the impending danger. "This is not who you are." But before Peter could react, Doom raised a hand, conjuring a wave of energy that threw the young hero against the wall with crushing force. Peter tried to stand up, but the force of the impact left him dizzy. "Parker, you have no idea what is about to happen," Doom said, slowly approaching. "I'm not here to argue. I am here to prepare you for the real enemy. You are all too weak, stuck in obsolete concepts of good and evil. When the real danger arrives, there will be no place for those concepts." Peter struggled to his feet, his eyes fixed on Tony. "You need to stop this, Tony. If there is a greater threat, we can face it together, but not like this." Doom just stared at Peter for a moment before shaking his head. "You still don't get it, do you? I'm not the Tony you knew anymore. I'm Doom, and you're not ready." With a wave of his hand, Doom opened a portal that sucked him into another dimension, leaving Peter alone and hurt, but not defeated. The Avengers assemble. After the confrontation with Doom, Peter knew he needed help. He immediately contacted the remaining Avengers, Natasha Romanoff, Bruce Banner, Sam Wilson, and other heroes who were still together after the countless battles they had faced. Gathered in one of the Avengers' old hideouts, Peter explained everything that had happened. "He's not the Tony we knew," Peter insisted, seeing the incredulous expressions of his colleagues. "He's more powerful than ever, and he's convinced that only he can save the world from whatever it may be." "And what does he want?" Natasha asked, her eyes calculating the possibilities. "To take over the world. To destroy everything." "I'm not sure," Peter replied, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "But he said we're all too weak to face what's coming. If Stark really has become what you described, he's a threat," Bruce said thoughtfully. "We need to find out more about what he's planning and how to stop him." The Avengers agreed to investigate the situation, with Peter leading the search for more information about the new Doctor Doom and his intentions. They knew the coming battle would be like no other, and the thought of facing someone who had once been one of the world's greatest heroes weighed heavily on their minds. The relentless defeat. Days later, the Avengers located Doom in an old abandoned laboratory in Latveria, where he was gathering his forces and building magic-infused war machines. Knowing they didn't have much time, they decided to strike before he was fully prepared. The plan was simple. Go in, disable his defenses, and capture him, in the hopes of restoring Tony's sanity. But as soon as they arrived at the scene, they realized how unprepared they were. Doom was waiting for them. Combining his superior intelligence with mystical power, he proved unbeatable. His defenses were impenetrable, and his attacks were devastating. Within minutes, the Avengers were overwhelmed, one by one. Bruce tried to transform into the Hulk, but Doom used a spell to control his transformation, leaving him trapped in an intermediate form, unable to fight at full strength. Natasha tried to use her espionage skills to infiltrate and disarm the defenses, but Doom predicted her every move, capturing her with ease. Sam Wilson, in his new identity as Captain America, attacked with everything he had, but was quickly neutralized by an energy field. Peter, the last to fall, fought with everything he had, but Doom effortlessly overcame him. In a last desperate attack, Peter tried to convince Tony that there was still hope, that he could redeem himself. But Doom was adamant. "You still don't understand," Doom said, lifting Peter by the neck. "I'm here to save the world, but not in the way you imagine. And if that means destroying you so you can be rebuilt stronger, then so be it." With a wave of his hand, Doom threw Peter against a wall, knocking him out cold. With all the Avengers defeated, Doom stood over them, his gaze cold and calculating. "You are still too weak for what is to come," he said calmly. "Consider this a lesson. I am the future, and when true darkness comes, I will be the only one capable of facing it." Without another word, Doom disappeared into a portal, leaving the Avengers lying unconscious. A new awakening when Peter awoke. He was in the Avengers' safe house, surrounded by his wounded comrades. Despite his defeats, he couldn't help but think about Doom's words. What could this threat he feared so much be? And how could they face it when they couldn't even face Tony? As they recovered, the Avengers began to plan their next move. They knew that Doom was more powerful than any enemy they had ever faced, and that they needed more strength, more allies to confront him. Peter, however, couldn't help but feel a weight on his heart. Seeing Tony Stark, the man he admired, turn into a villain was a devastating blow. But at the same time, he knew there was something more behind Tony's transformation. Something they didn't yet fully understand. "We will find him again," Peter told the others, his voice full of determination. "And next time, we will be ready." The Avengers nodded, knowing that the battle against Doctor Doom was far from over. With the threat of a new darkness on the horizon, they knew they needed to prepare for the fight of their lives. The true enemy. As the Avengers regrouped, Doom continued his preparations. He knew the heroes would return, stronger, more determined. But he also knew that they were not the true enemy. The true threat was approaching, a force that not even his vast powers could face alone. Deep within the multiverse, ancient and powerful entities were beginning to awaken. They had sensed the disruption caused by Doom's use of dark magic and were preparing to take action. These entities, known as the Dark Watchers, were beings who existed to balance chaos and order, and now with Doom threatening the balance of the multiverse, they were ready to act. Doom, aware of his imminent arrival, began gathering allies, not to dominate them, but to prepare for the final battle he knew was coming. He trusted no one, but he understood that to face what was coming, he would need all the help he could get. The rise of Doom. The Dark Watch began sending emissaries to the different realities, trying to prevent the merging of worlds that Doom was about to cause. Their warnings echoed throughout the ends of the multiverse, but few dared to face Doom directly. Meanwhile, Doom consolidated his power, dominating realities and shaping them in his image. He increasingly distanced himself from the man who had once been Tony Stark. He saw himself as the ultimate savior, the one who would sacrifice everything to save the multiverse from imminent destruction. In his mind, he was not a villain, but the only one capable of making the difficult decisions necessary to save existence. He believed that absolute power was justified if the end goal was noble, even if the path was dark. The return of the Avengers. After months of preparation, the Avengers, now strengthened and with new allies, were ready to face Doom again. Peter, now leading the team, was determined to find a way to bring Tony back, or at least stop him from causing more destruction. The final battle was intense and brutal. Doom, at his full power, faced the Avengers and their allies with devastating fury. But this time, the Avengers were ready. They had trained, studied Doom's weaknesses, and were determined not to fail. Peter, using everything he had learned, confronted Doom directly. He tried one last time to reach the man who had once been his mentor, trying to break Dr. Doom's mask and find Tony Stark behind it. "Tony, please stop this," Peter shouted, dodging a devastating attack. "You're better than this. You don't have to be a tyrant to save the world." Doom hesitated for a moment, a split second that gave Peter hope. But soon, the cold, merciless gaze returned. "There is no more Tony Parker. Only Doom," he replied, casting a spell that nearly knocked Peter down. But before the final blow could be struck, something unexpected happened. A powerful presence, neither one of the Avengers nor Doom, manifested itself. It was one of the Dark Watchers who had arrived to stop the battle. "This conflict is futile," the Watcher said, his voice echoing across the battlefield. "The true threat is approaching, and none of you are prepared." Doom turned to the Watcher, his expression hardening. "I am the only preparation this universe needs." The Watcher laughed, the sound that seemed to resonate in every dimension at once. "You have no idea what is coming, Doom. Neither you nor the Avengers. This is only the beginning, the Dark Horizon." With those words, the Dark Watcher disappeared, leaving the Avengers and Doom stunned. The battle was over, but the sense of victory was absent. Instead, a sense of deep dread settled over them all. Doom, though powerful, could not ignore the warning. He had underestimated what was at stake. For the first time since his resurrection, he felt a glimmer of doubt. Peter, wounded and exhausted, watched Doom from afar. Even after everything, he still believed that Tony could be saved, but now there was no certainty. "This is not over, Parker," Doom said before opening a new portal. "I fought to save this world from destruction, but it seems that there are greater forces at play. When the time comes, will you be ready?" "I say this because I will be." Doom disappeared, leaving Peter and the Avengers behind. In time, they would recover and prepare for what was to come, but the shadow of Doom and the unknown threat of the Dark Watchers would loom over them. As Peter watched the horizon, he knew that the real battle was yet to come. Doom had won, but not because he was invincible, but because they were all still too weak to face what was to come. The final battle would be different, and they would need to be ready. And so, the world prepared for what could be the greatest threat it had ever faced, with Dr. Doom not as the ultimate villain, but perhaps as the only possible savior on the Dark Horizon that was approaching. The hidden threat deep within the multiverse, an ancient and powerful shadow began to stir, awakened by Doom's actions. It was a threat not just to a single universe, but to all that existed. And while Doom prepared himself, believing that he was the only salvation, the truth was much more complex. The Avengers, Dr. Doom, and all the forces of good and evil would need to unite, not only to save their worlds, but to preserve their very existence. The war was just beginning, and the true enemy was still in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. So these are our theoretical points. What do you think of all this? Don't forget to leave a comment with your opinion, click the like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. I'm Mr. Screen and see you soon. Bye.